Bitcoin bulls are turning the dial up as we move into the afternoon of our Tuesday trading session with buyers stepping in. Now, it's not the pump we deserve, but it just might be the pump that we need to restore the faith to the fallen, to put the pump back in pump and dump, and to put the screw you back in the bull market. Meanwhile, EOS's dicey deal with the SEC reaches a positive conclusion. New Balance, yes, your grandfather's favorite shoe company, reaches a partnership with Cardano to battle counterfeiting, and the repo market meltdown is heating up yet again. Let's break it all down in today's exciting episode of Breaking Bitcoin. Welcome to Breaking Bitcoin, recorded live here in the studio. It's Tuesday, October 1st. September is a distant memory now. Everything that happened back at September, gone. We are in October now. No words of September. Fantastic month for myself. Fantastic month for, I hope, all of you as well. Fantastic month for the trading group as well. I've really enjoyed this and really looking forward to moving into Q4 of 2019 with everybody that's watching the show. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. I'm really quite positive about the volatility, about the opportunities that we have coming up in front of us as traders and as participants in this wild space that we call cryptocurrency. Of course, my name is Justin Wise, lead analyst and senior mentor at crackingcryptocurrency.com, and I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic wherever you happen to be tuning into this wonderful program from across this great wide world web that we call the interwebs. And it doesn't matter whether you're watching us across YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Facebook, or on Roku, of course, with the Investor News Channel app. If you, yes, you, I'm talking to you, you in the corner. If you would like to support the show, make sure to subscribe, follow, share, and engage in the live chat and hit the thumbs up button. Highly appreciate it, guys. Of course, today's show is brought to you by the Cracking Cryptocurrency Premium Trading Group. If you are a new or aspiring trader, or if you are an experienced trader looking to sharpen your skills and work with a team with a proven, verified statistical edge that deals in the realm of raw technical strategy, make sure to check out the link in the description down below or navigate your browsers on over to premium.crackingcryptocurrency.com to see all that our community can offer for you. Right on the tails of that, I want to thank this month's crypto comment giveaway sponsor, Spectre Security Coin. Make sure to go check them out at spectresecurity.io. Question of the day. Answer the question down in the comment section down below to be entered into a chance to win 8,000 Spectre Security Coin every single day. What do you guys think about EOS?
Before we get into it, we're going to go over.
What just happened with my phone? It just started playing randomly. That was weird. Why did my phone just randomly start playing Altcoin Daily? I see you, Altcoin Daily. Hacking my phone and stuff. Moving right along, guys. Question of the day. What do you guys think about EOS? Right? They just settled up with the SEC. The SEC basically gave them the thumbs up. So what do you guys think? Good investment, long-term hold, just another pump and dump? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section down below. I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say about the much vaulted EOS. With that being said, let's not waste any time. Let's head on over into the live scene, give away some crypto, and see what's going on with Bitcoin today, guys. Let's go. All right, so here we are in the somewhat live scene, and I want to thank everybody who commented on yesterday's video. We're going to load the comments up on yesterday's video, and of course, yesterday was, is the Bitcoin crash over? Did Coinbase just kill ZERP live trading and analysis? Highly appreciate you guys. It's the NSA for free. That was odd. Straight up, quite odd. We'll randomly pick a winner. Okay. Computer Tech Tutorials, thank you so much for the well thought out comment here. Let's see here. Let's start. I think the real reason for when BTC and BitTorrent token pairs being removed from Binance has to do with their low SAT values. Binance is now the largest Tron super representative, i.e. largest mining pool in Bitcoin terms. They're not backing away from Win and BitTorrent token with the new Sun network and how TRX is evolving. They want to cooperate with Tron to give Win and BTT pairs their spotlight. I'd encourage everyone to look into the most recent updates announcements in regards to Tron, Sun network, and sidechain implementations. It made no sense to trade Win and BTT to BTC. They were always stuck at 2 or 3 sats, so you can never get your orders in at a fair price. Either you're getting a terrible sell price or a terrible buy price. Removing the BTC base pairs is not a sign of weakness, but a strategy in cooperation with Tron. Interesting take on the entire situation, man. Quite an interesting take. Honestly, I'd say you've looked into this a little bit more. My thoughts on this right off of the bat. Obviously, from what I understand, the BNB pairs are still valid. So, the largest kind of thought on this that I've heard is that the reason why this is going to be, so that individual, people are like, they're just going to leave these pairs so that they can pump the BNB tokens up. The reality about that is there wasn't a lot of volume and liquidity on there. I think that quite pales in comparison. I don't really see this as an attempt to pump up BNB's prices. CZ has quite a few much better tricks in the bag if you just wanted to raw attempt to influence the price of BNB token in a positive manner rather than attempting to mess with TRX. So this is kind of an interesting take. So yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for the well thought out comment, man. Get a hold of me in the Discord and I will tip you some crypto, my good friend. With that being said, let's go over to the live scene. And let's see what's going on. Oh my God, look at that, guys. The bear market is over. Bitcoin is pumping. John McAfee was right. $50,000 before the end of the day. Screw the end of the quarter, man. Look at that green, glorious, beautiful candle, man. All right, currently trading at 85.01. Honestly, nothing to get massively excited about. Of course, we are still long. We did talk about this. We were kind of expecting this bounce, looking for this movement to the upside. We'll break down the indicators here in just a little bit. But just overall, just looking at the structure of price, you can really see that this is nothing on a macro scale to get supremely excited about, right? We are over here, of course, on the Bitstamp chart. And for quite a while now, we were moving in this consolidation pattern, and we did finally break down out of this with a successive series of lower highs. Of course, we had fairly equidistant lows forming, again, the meme descending triangle to 1 degree, forming a consistent level of demand that did work well to support price at that point in time. Don Candon, thank you so much, my friend, for the 50 crones. And he says, aloha, when are we having the premium group party? Women, powder, and throwing midgets at the target. Hey, we are going to be in San Francisco for the San Francisco Blockchain Week. I did forget to mention that, but we are going to be there. The entire team is going to be there. So we're not exactly sure where we're going to stay or what we're going to do, but hey, who's coming with us? That's what I want to know. You want to come throw midgets at a target with us in San Francisco, man? Board the bus. Who's coming with us? Okay. So if we just look at, just looking at the overall structure of the market, any bullish movements at this point in time, really, from a trending perspective, is nothing to really get excited about. It's nothing to call home to mom about. Of course, as traders, we're going to be looking for any opportunity that we can in the market. And of course, we were expecting to see this bounce at this point in time, and we will ride this as well as we can. Before we get into the raw technicals of Bitcoin, I would like to I think this is a good way to start doing it. Before we really break down, I think it's good to get a kind of a scope of what the rest of the market is doing as well. We over here overall on the Bitcoin, those are all my Bitcoin fundamentals. So if we look at Ethereum, obviously Ethereum is having a little bit of a pullback as well, stalling out with with a nice move into the upside, but really just pulling back, honestly not doing a whole lot. We do have to remember that Ethereum was overperforming Bitcoin over the last few days, showing more volatility. So it doesn't really surprise me that with the big kahuna stepping in and actually making a move of its own, that is a little bit more significant than what we've seen, rather than the last about 3 or 4 days of ranging. With yesterday being a slight exception, we did have a little bit more bullishness than bearishness coming in yesterday with the daily candle closure. Ethereum is pulling back as well. It's a very similar story for the rest of our dollar pairs. Honestly, not a whole lot of weakness coming in from anything like EOS and XRP. XRP holding up the weakest, and that kind of rounds out our ByBit pairs for those of you guys who are trading the major dollar pairs on ByBit. And really, honestly, just not a whole lot to do. Not a whole lot of leeway here. Not a whole lot of movement. Not a whole lot of opportunity in the market, except for really lower time frames. And those are fraught with their own perils as well. So I wouldn't say that there's been any really attractive trades on any of the major dollar pairs for Ethereum, EOS, or XRP. Overall, just stalling out. Haven't really put in a whole lot of selling pressure. And again, just pulling back slightly in response to Bitcoin pulling to the upside. Looking over at our major MEX pairs, we do have Ethereum, Bitcoin actually pulling back the most significantly. And Ethereum, Bitcoin, I ended up exiting my short due to what my long-term trend indicator said. I do want to take a brief pause here to look at that and just look at the Ethereum Bitcoin pairs. So we do see Paralock switching to a bullish trending perspective on yesterday's daily candle closure. And we do see that is continuing into today. We do see that is continuing into today. And Parallax has a very uncanny ability to be right, irregardless of what price action is doing. We also have to look at a couple other things. The Ethereum Bitcoin trade is not generally, it's in my wheelhouse of trades that I take, but it's not a trending trade, and I am primarily a trend trader. I do trade reversals on occasion. I do look at other factors as well. But the bread and butter of my trading strategy is just going to be raw technical trend following trading. But we do have to look based on that, in that posture. What do we have? Yes, this is Minx. I've switched it up. To be quite honest with you guys, this is how I generally look at Minx. The way that it typically looks for people who come in, that is the everything is laid out for you. It shows you all the signals. But as the person who programmed and developed Minx, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I like my initiation level being very discreet, and I like looking at the interplay between the lines here as well. So anyways, if we look at the posture of Minx, we were above Minx. The Minx line was above the noise line, signaling that we should be potentially looking for longs. And of course, that was also occurring above the initiation level. So we're actually in bullish territory for Minx. As well as Wadatar Explosion, even though we have lowered volatility in this area, it is telling us to be kind of cautious in this area. Wadatar was giving us the full hog, go ahead and go long in this price appreciation mode right here. And Parallax, for the most part, was agreeing with that as well. So everything was firing on all cylinders on this movement to the upside here on Ethereum Bitcoin. And overall, it's just been kind of indecisive. But again, we do get that flip back up to the upside on Parallax here, and I can't argue with that. I do have to go ahead and exit any short trades that might be occurring at that position. Now, one other thing that I do want to point out is this major bearish divergence that we are getting with this confirmed cross under. On the Fisher transform here on time transformation, where we do have this high, we do have a higher high, and pretty steep, actually, regular bearish divergence coming in here from time transformation. So again, not a massive part of my strategy, not anything that I'm going to be initiating trades off of. It was, I took the small L on the Ethereum Bitcoin trade, and that's okay, just kind of rounded out. And it was mostly placed there for a hedge. I was, going long on Bitcoin, and Ethereum was outperforming Bitcoin at that point in time. Wasn't really expecting that, but that's okay. I went ahead and let go of that trade. I will just kind of see how Ethereum plays out here. Again, Parallax has quite an uncanny ability to be right, irregardless of price action. So we'll just kind of see what comes in for Ethereum right now. What do I kind of see in the interim? Do I see it pulling back? Yes, subjectively I do. But again, I'm not going to be arguing with Parallax at this point in time. And again, I'm not going to be arguing with Minx either. If we were to get a cross under for Minx, that might be an opportunity to look for a continuation. But to be quite honest with you guys, I would really feel like that would be reaching at this point in time. And I hate being in the posture where I'm looking for reasons to take a trade to justify a subjective bias. So in these situations, I typically just, I step away. I say, well, I'll just wait for a very clear objective signal, and I'm not going to be reaching or pulling or grabbing for one at this point in time. So as far as Ethereum Bitcoin is concerned for me at this point in time, I want to be subjectively, I want to be a little bit more bearish on this, but looking at, as long as Parallax remains this way and Minx and all things remain the same, I'm forced to be bullish on this. And we do see Wadatar Explosion resetting, waiting for that other explosion level. And I think that we would get that if we can see a nice breakout or something in this pattern, but that divergence is something to take in mind. Looking over at XRP BTC, we see and here's Cardano, here's EOS, here's Tron, here's Bitcoin Crash, and of course Litecoin. Now Litecoin being the only altcoin that I have moved into for a longer term position, as I kind of talked about. Saintsy, what's going on, my friend? Thank you so much for the $4.99 coming in the form of the quid, but we don't discriminate around here. He says, would you consider the volume on the last major Bitcoin dump sufficient to indicate a possible reversal of trend as at the end of June? There are quite a few concerning things about the momentum and the volume of the movement down on the latest breakdown. Obviously it's a little bit more extreme than we would want to see for something that would be, just a pullback type situation. It's a little bit more extreme in terms of volume. It's a little bit more extreme in terms of how far we have gone beyond. Now, Bitcoin does move like this. And I think that overall, when we look at things like the weekly, when we look at things like the monthly, there are a lot of positive signs. But again, as I've said, we are now in a bearish trend. For the short term, we are below the Kijun on the daily. We have everything signaling overall bearishness on, again, for short-term trades. We're not in a, man, why? I'm just blowing up today. Can I help you? Not a good time. We are, although we have not had, and we talked about this previously, what signifies a long-term bullish market to me, it's going to be the 1355 weekly exponential moving average crossover. It's not going to be the earliest signal for a bull market, but it is the confirmation. We have not, of course, gotten that cross back under. That hasn't happened yet. So I'm hesitant to say, oh, we're in a bear market. We're in a bear market. these things do take time to work out, even with something as volatile as Bitcoin. And we do have to understand just the way that natural market dynamics work. Even if we are entering into a long-term bearish trend, which is absolutely a possibility, you know, you're gonna have your bounces along the way. Things don't just move in a straight line to the downside. So, you know, overall, would I say I'm concerned? So concern, I think, is the wrong term, because I am long-term bullish on Bitcoin from a fundamental investment standpoint. Now, as a trader, I'll trade in whichever way the market tends to go, and which way I feel, and I have learned over time, generates more consistent profit for me, because trading is my active form of income. And I guess the nice thing about being a trader is that should Bitcoin dry up as far as volatility goes, well, I can just go to Forex. I can just go trade commodities. I can go trade equity. And again, the skills that I teach and what I do in the group is all designed to set somebody up for long-term success, regardless of what they want to trade. Now, I enjoy trading crypto. I think it's the easiest barrier to entry. I think that the ability to trade crypto is one of those few spaces with the volatility where you can come in, again, with a small amount of capital and do a lot of damage. It's not an opportunity that happens for a lot of people, and it doesn't come around all the time. That opportunity largely went away in the Forex markets. It was like that when Forex really started to get popular, I'd say. In the early 2000s, there was that kind of opportunity, was that kind of volatility. That's largely dried up now, I think, for a lot of retail traders. I think a lot of people throw themselves the Forex market and they don't get the success that they need because they just kind of fundamentally misunderstand the way that Forex works. Now, there's still a lot of opportunity in the Forex markets. But again, I think that a lot of that opportunity has shifted over to crypto, and at least so far as the major dollar pairs are concerned. So yeah, I guess just TLDR, to answer your question. Would I consider the volume? The volume was absolutely trend beginning volume. Was absolutely trend beginning volume. As I said, overall, I'm looking to short from higher prices. We are in a bearish posture right now, and I need to see a break of that. But again, things don't move in a straight line down. And after you see a big volatile movement like that, in conjunction with several good reversal signals, in conjunction with hitting a demand area right here, that is good grounds for a reversal bounce right here. Okay. So major MEX pairs, major Bitcoin pairs having a little bit of a pullback, some less than others. Obviously, I think Litecoin, which is convenient because Litecoin is one that I've established myself in. Litecoin having less of a movement to the downside. But of course, we are just kind of seeing that in general across the pairs. And I kind of was talking about that yesterday. We're seeing a lot of these altcoins running, a lot of these alt BTC pairs moving to the upside. For those who captured the movements, that's absolutely fantastic. But kind of saying for the last couple of days, I think that party's largely going to be coming to an end, at least in the interim, because this is all BTC dependent. So, there's ways to trade altcoins a little bit more successfully, and there's ways to not trade altcoins a little bit more successfully. So, you do want to be aware of what Bitcoin is doing overall. So now let's slide back to the stamp chart and let's bring up our indicators and just talk about kind of where we're sitting as far as Bitcoin goes, and then we've got a lot to talk about. Forex is so boring, though. It can be, man. I trade Forex for about 20 minutes a day. Okay, here on the daily, let's pull up the indicators. Okay, so Minx obviously giving you the signal to be out of your short trades on the 26th of September. We talked about that back then. That has not changed. Minx is still above the noise line on the daily time frame. Of course, we are below the initiation level. Of course, we are below the baseline. So these are all going to be reversal style setups. But for a trend trader, this is obviously an early exit signal per our strategy. So just exiting the trade and being quite happy with that, because again, locking in that nice profit. And again, also getting the conjunction of two multiple reversal buy signals coming in from time transformation, which we hadn't gotten on the daily time frame since back over in I'd say this first initial bounce in November 2018. I'm hesitant to compare this price movement. This was the declination from 6,000 all the way down to 3,000 to what we're seeing right here. But as we can kind of see, with how do we put this? How do I put this? The first thing that I want to say about this is what I've said many times previously, right? So when you have been in a range, which we were clearly in Bitcoin's price action right here, when you've been in a range for a while, the first oversold or overbought signals, and again, Overbought and oversold things are treacherous. I don't think they're the best way to look at the market, but they are dynamics that occur because Bitcoin does have intrinsic value. So your first overbought or oversold signals coming out of a range are typically going to be fallacious, right? They're not going to be real because your indicators, keep in mind, your indicators have been monitoring a ranging area of volatility, right? And remember, your indicators are only good as the momentum or the price action that they are following as well. At the end of the day, they are just extrapolations of price and volatility and momentum. Just depends on, as with all computer code, it's going to do what you tell it to. By the way, thanks so much for the sub over there on YouTube, my friend. Let's see here. So you want to be very careful looking at those oversold signals. The first oversold or overbought signals when you are breaking out of a range are typically going to be fallacious. So again, I want to couch this very, very carefully. Yes, I am long on Bitcoin. But am I long on Bitcoin in such a way where I'm like, man, I just bought in hardcore. We're not going to see lower prices. I absolutely do not believe that. I actually have quite a bit of conviction that we will see lower prices. So just trading the bounce, just trading the reversal. If we look at, we've talked about this previously as well. I don't know why those levels are not coming up, but we've talked about, yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and talk about that. Let's get rid of this before. We've talked about pretty much the only two areas on the chart that interest me. And those are going to be two areas of lows, two areas of supply. We have the first coming in at 7,400 and we have the second coming in at 6,400, right? The first area at 6,400 is going to be a daily order block coming back all the way over here to 2018 in September. And as I've talked about as well, I think it's a good representation of the overall median of the consolidation range in 2019, where we have our highs, where we have our lows. And again, it's not the perfect median, but I think it does separate the bullish control zone and the bearish control zone quite well in that area. We also see that unlike the $6,000 area, which again was a big hullabaloo. I mean, even I talked about the $6,000 area when we broke down from that floor in 2018. And then when we started rising back toward it, when Bitcoin was coming off its lows in the early 2019, a lot of people, even myself included, thought that we would see a little bit more significant resistance at that area, but that was not what happened. We can see that the area that actually did put in that little bit of resistance, and we do see consolidation at that place, is that 7.4, around that 7.4 range. And again, we have the breaker on this candle right here because we can see that 7.4 level on the very first touch does reject price on this candle right here. We do end up breaking through, and then we do end up bottoming and finding support there. So that level was tested 4 times. Once, twice, 3, 4 times. So we did develop a little bit of a floor and a little bit of support there. So I think that's the first area to keep in mind. Now, again, a lot of people are going to be looking at this. And of course, it is important to realize that just because we don't tap a level doesn't mean that that's not important. The level, the number that is on the left-hand side of your chart, that's on the y-axis of your chart, is less important than just overall, again, first off, your indicators and your technical strategy. But overall, more than that, or I would say less than that, actually, is just going to be, again, when we're talking about supply and demand, looking for atypical price patterns that occur at those levels, right? Looking at accumulative behavior near an area of demand is often better and a better signal than just saying, well, we haven't actually hit that level yet, so therefore, I'm not taking a move because we actually must hit that level. That is a very narrow way of thinking. There is no import on the actual price level. Again, what you're looking for is for that price level to influence the psychology of market participants. So if market participants decide that they're not going to act in a bullish manner or begin buying Bitcoin until we reach that level, then that's exactly what's going to happen. However, if they decide that they're going to accumulate Bitcoin at a level near or close to that level, then you have to respond to the market as it evolves and unfolds in front of you. But again, I do think overall that we will see lower prices. And again, the two areas that I'm keeping my eye on are 7.4 and 6.4. Now, do I think that it is appropriate? Do I think it's appropriate to be setting limit buys down at that area? No, because what is that? That is going to be attempting to call the bottom in a bearish trend. And it's very similar to calling a top in a bullish trend. And that's not what you want to do. That's not how you want to be posturing yourself. You do not have that level of predictability. Just as I said, your levels are not as important as you think they are. Your horizontal levels, your diagonal levels, for the love of God, are not as predictive, are not as important as you think they are. And again, if you are going to be trading that style of supply and demand and looking at where demand does come into the Bitcoin market, the only way to do it with any, in my opinion, level of success is not to be setting blind bids, because that again, you run into the area of proper risk management when you're setting blind bids. And when you have an asset that can wick 5 or 8% and just generally completely wipe out any logical stop loss placement that you may or may not use, again, good proper risk management becomes an issue, and good proper risk management is what actually allows somebody to be a consistently profitable trader in the long run, not how good you're able to buy a dip. Okay, so, and, looking at this, what do I think is a more important level? If I had to comment on the importance of the levels, I would say that coming back down closer to that 6.4 level again. We do wick down to that level. That's 6.178 as opposed to the 7.4 level right here. The 6.4 is going to be, congruing more to kind of the median of this range right here. And overall, this order block that we did establish right around this area right here. So let's just mark out the top of that order block. Boom, right there. And that was the last high that we were able to reach before we actually rejected from that area and moved all the way to the downside. Do we see a lot of reaction off of that level coming back up from the bearish trend? No, not really. But that's just where my mind is at. That's where my mind is at. So levels that I'm watching, again, I don't think it's appropriate to be placing bids down there. You guys trade as you so desire. Okay, moving right along from that. Let's check in with our indicators once again. Now, what is interesting on Wadatar Explosion, if you were ignoring the signals from Minx, if you were ignoring the signals from Time Transformation, I would hope that you're not ignoring the signals from Wadatar Explosion, because what happened yesterday? Well, we are in a bearish trend indicated by red and orange columns moving to the downside, waning momentum to the downside, though, over the last 3 or 4 days, letting you know that, hey, the bearish pressure is letting off, potentially a good opportunity to take profit. And the full confirmation comes with closing a column, as we did on yesterday's daily candle close, below the explosion level. And we're doing so again today. We're actually closing below the explosion level yet again today, with overall the daily Parallax being in a bearish posture. Of course, Parallax has been telling you to be looking for a short since the 8th of September. And of course, we were short on the 20th of September. We mostly stayed out of this ranging nonsense right here that really came in for the most part, pretty much throughout all of September, and then ended up establishing that short position on the open of this candle, Okay. Let's go down to the 4-hour on Bitcoin and just kind of talk about what we have going on here. Okay, so overall, if we come down to the lower time frames and just look at the structure of Bitcoin right now, we haven't really done a whole lot. We have obviously established a little bit of a low. We did end up forming a bit of a higher low here, although I would argue that we've just kind of double bottomed, and you guys know that I don't really care about double bottoms. They don't mean anything. They're not predictive of anything. I don't think that they're a valid pattern to trade in any way, shape, or form. And you guys know how I feel about pattern trading in the first place. Now here on the 4-hour, I don't think it's as clean as we have seen multiple times on like the hourly. And again, we were kind of watching the 15-minute chart, which we'll go down to here in just a little bit and kind of look at overall what price is doing. And again, I don't think that trading on the 15-minute time frame is a good idea. People think that Bitcoin is a volatile asset and you only catch those moves on the 15-minute. Honestly, in my experience with people who trade the 15-minute time frame with Bitcoin, they just tend to lose a lot of money. I don't know a lot of people who actually trade Bitcoin on, really low scalpy time frames and consistently make money. Bitcoin is a great asset to trade on the daily, the 4-hour, the 1 hour. It just moves so well if you have a good technical strategy. I mean, people are like, oh, I get faked out all the time. Yeah, because you're watching the 30-minute chart. Of course, you're going to get faked out. You're going to get faked out left and right. And the consequences of getting faked out on Bitcoin, when again, it can move 5 to 8%. Conversely, in a counter trend direction, it's no bueno, man. It's no good. All right, man. It is hot here in the studio today. Woo! Woo! Man, hopefully you guys are staying cool. Hopefully you guys are staying cool. Now, we do kind of see, I don't know if it's a very good, clean example of it, but again, we talk about, kind of one of the few patterns that I ever talk about, and that is, when you're ranging and you're looking for a breakout, establishing a range, and then you determine what is the median of that range. And once you break above that median, you want to see a higher low get formed. See a higher low get formed. And that is kind of the breakout setup that I like to see, right? That's the breakout setup that I like to see, especially when we have tested, again, generally some horizontal level of resistance multiple times, which I think is quite germane and valid to what we've got going on here. So, obviously, if we look at this, we are right at the upper level of this range on Bitcoin's price right now. If you're not in position, as we are in position, I don't really think right now is the appropriate time. And you want to be careful, obviously. It just kind of depends on what your confirmation is for a breakout, what time frame you're watching this on. Typically, breakouts can be treacherous trading them in Bitcoin. You typically want to wait for candle closes because you don't want to buy the wick. And that happens a lot in Bitcoin's price. Bitcoin does end up doing a lot of fake outs. So, man, sorry guys, I'm really thirsty. Running some miners. Tenacious V, good to see you, man. Staking on the computer behind me, but it just gets really hot in here, man. With, I've got 7 monitors, 3 TVs, 2 computers. I just felt the air conditioner come on though, so it's like, thank you. So, if I was not in position on Bitcoin right now, I don't feel like I would be doing anything. I would just be waiting for the breakout. But of course, that is going to depend on what your confirmation of a breakout is. Again, waiting for candle closes, maybe looking for a BPC. We talk about this in the premium webinar on horizontal support and resistance. Overall, Parallax is still bullish on the 4-hour time frame. Watertower Explosion is still bullish on the 4-hour time frame. Minx does not have you in an active trade on the 4-hour time frame. In fact, it has you exiting on right over here. But again, you'd be looking for that continuation signal on Minx. So waiting for that 4-hour to cross back up to the upside on Minx, which we are kind of curling up on the current candle. So a little bit cleaner on the hourly, I would say. Again, we talked about this yesterday. We talked about this level of resistance right here. And we talked about, again, this range right here, and then establishing a higher low above the median, which we did end up doing right here, which did lead a little bit to this break. Now, we haven't really had too much of a breakout. One could consider this a BPC, break, pullback, continuation. But again, we haven't really seen the follow through on that. In fact, currently getting rejected from that same area. So for that reason, I wouldn't take any posture on Bitcoin if you're not currently in position. That's about it. Still in the long trade. The majority of my equity is still hedged with a short. And we'll see. Haven't taken any profit on the long trade yet. Have not moved my stop loss up either. Looking at this, the only thing that would begin to trouble me is if we did end up coming down here and taking out 8,000. That's not the psychological level of 8,000. Again, we kind of talked about this same structure, right? We talked about forming a higher low above the median of the range. I would like to see that median hold. If that median doesn't hold, again, the danger, because I still, from a higher time frame perspective, am bearish on Bitcoin, overall moving forward, regardless of the bounce that we'll see. But the bounce isn't guaranteed. It's possible that this is the only bounce we're going to get. And again, I would argue that this is not really much of a bounce. All this is ranging and consolidation. And we do seem to be consolidating up at the upper level of that range, again, with forming those higher lows, which is always good to see. That is exactly what you see right before a breakout, but we haven't seen the breakout yet. And again, the threat to the downside, I would say, does at this point trump the potential reward of a trade to the upside. So if we were to take out the $8,000 level, I would probably be looking to just fold back into a larger short. Jury's kind of out on whether I'd be looking for a Forex short on that point in time. Again, it's going to depend on how the daily closures print, and it's going to depend on what the indicators say for me to actually be taking full risk positions at this point in time. But again, overall, even though we do have some nice bullish activity coming in from Bitcoin, we haven't really seen a significant breakout at this point in time, and overall, we are just again at the top of the range. So nothing to call home to mom about. It's not the pump that we deserve, but hopefully we can get the pump that we need out of this to restore the faith to the fallen. Moving right along, and again, we kind of touched on the major dollar pairs as well. Not a whole lot to talk about insofar as they go. I don't have a strong position. I don't have a directional bias on the major dollar pairs at this point in time. They're going to track Bitcoin, of course, because I am overall bearish, looking at the macros of everything. And it's going to be pretty difficult for me to be looking for reversal trades on those. I can justify the reversal trades on Bitcoin because the way that I trade reversals on Bitcoin are strategies that one can backtest. And I've done almost all, the majority of, let me rephrase that. I apologize. I've done far more backtesting everything that I do on Bitcoin. So although I've done extensive backtesting on all the other pairs as well, in fact, I don't trade anything that I can't backtest or forward test. Again, the data is much cleaner on Bitcoin than on the other pairs, for example. Although with Ethereum, with few exceptions, Ethereum tends to track pretty well to any technical strategy you want to apply to Bitcoin. It doesn't really have a lot of nuance of its own. Of course, Ethereum Bitcoin is its own animal. But Ethereum USD, I prefer trading Ethereum USD to Ethereum Bitcoin. I don't care that Ethereum Bitcoin is the more liquid pair. Ethereum USD responds better to raw technical analysis. Antonio, thank you so much for the sub over there on YouTube. And of course, Gerald, thank you so much as well for subscribing over there on YouTube. Now, I think what is germane to talk about, and I think what a lot of people are kind of interested in, is going to be the major BTC pairs. That's kind of, for some reason, that seems to be all that. Well, I don't want to say all, because a lot of people are just mostly talking about Bitcoin's price, which I think is appropriate. But a lot of people are looking at a lot of these altcoins, and they're really, I think, grabbing for any possible signs that we're going to be moving into an alt season. I'm not going to lie. First off, Dash is absolutely dead to me. I don't see anything good about Dash. Dash has literally done nothing bullish since 2017, in my opinion. Dash is absolutely terrible. But let's. Oh shoot! I just removed all my. There we go. Didn't want to remove all my indicators. Thank you so much. Litecoin, I feel a little bit different about. I did post kind of but a pretty good long-term fundamental analysis of Litecoin. I quite like where it is. It just has a better, it has a much more clearly defined range. And again, I like Litecoin moving forward. But a lot of these other pairs, man, have literally done nothing bullish. Obviously, if you look at Litecoin has done some bullish things, man. It's come down to this level and it's put in 100% recoveries multiple times. If you look at other things, obviously Bitcoin Gold has no investment value whatsoever. Zcash, Decred, Rep. And as much as I like Neo, here's the thing. I've talked about Neo a little bit. I am holding on to some Neo. I do kind of like the way that it looks. But again, Neo, it's less of, let's put it this way. It's less of a technical perspective and more of a fundamental perspective on Neo. But honestly, guys, it is difficult. BNB is an exception. It's its own animal. But it's difficult to be really, really bullish for some form of alt season that is not just pump and dumps, man. Honestly, for the majority of all the movements that we've seen out of these major pairs, major and medium pairs, it's mostly just been your atypical pump and dump behavior, man. with a few exceptions. Obviously, low sats. Again, let's look at low sats. Low sats, for the most part, have been making a good climb recently and putting in some good bullishness. Let's go find some good examples here. CND obviously did a good pump. Data's done pretty well. DNT Doc obviously made a nice run for the hills. We actually traded Doc and were able to sell this wick. Fuel obviously putting in some crazy wicks. Fun made a nice run for the hills over here. Hydra Protocol hasn't actually ran yet. IOTX didn't do anything. Key hasn't done anything. Lend obviously did some nice bullish appreciation. Loom did pretty well. Loop Ring was kind of okay. Mana hasn't done anything. Matic hasn't really done anything. MFT has not moved yet. Mithril hasn't moved yet. Monetha had a little bit of a pump over there. Encash, nothing really. OST, nothing really. POA doing okay right now. PO had a nice little bit of a run. QKC has not moved yet. QLC again had a nice pump up. QSP doing okay. RCN doing actually pretty gosh darn well. So I bet Tika Tawari's pretty happy over there because he's showing the hell out of RCN. Rec, give or take. Raven, actually Raven looks a little bit better, I would say, subjectively than the rest. Raven, ye old massive pump and dump right there. But again, kind of holding its low pretty well right here and giving a little bit of a bounce. But again, it's hard for me to be fundamentally bullish on these after just such a long period of price deprecation, man. Because if you zoom out on almost all these pairs, every single chart pretty much just looks like this. Every single chart just pretty much looks like this. So again, something being cheap does not a good investment make. Okay. So you guys are going to make your own decisions, but I just want you guys to be careful because trading these things can be treacherous. Altcoins, very similar. So altcoins, here's my fundamental philosophy on altcoins. We trade altcoins and we do quite well with altcoins. But here's the thing. When altcoins are in a clear bullish trend, and when altcoins are in a clear bullish trend, like everybody knows, it's not, if altcoins are in a clear bullish trend, every single person and their mom knows that altcoins are just pumping and they just won't stop and you're buying every dip. And we've seen this happen maybe 2 or 3 times on a macro scale with altcoins across the board, right? And everything in between then is just random pumps, man. It's just random pumps. And what you'll see is when altcoins are bullish across the board, it is one of the easiest asset classes to trade under God's green earth. I mean, it just almost literally doesn't matter what you buy. You're gonna 4 to 5x your money pretty much easily. This has been the case with just about every major bullish altcoin trend. And when they're not, man, you better have a good reversal strategy. I just want to zoom your guys' attention out, to the kind of the longer term charts here and not get you guys so tracked into the short term charts. Yo-yo also, again, if you just look at this, right, here's yo-yo. If you just look at this, like this looks really good. Like yo-yo looks really good, man. Like nice moving off the lows. You might look at this and be like, damn, that's bullish. But if you zoom out, you're like, oh, okay. Well, that's a little less bullish, man. Hey, man, don't be talking bad about Dragon Chain, dude. I still got that tattoo on my bicep, bro. Dragon Chain for life, bro. Anyways, it is now 12:45. So let's kind of segue from this a little bit. Let's hop on over to the Forex markets real quick. And take a look at my active trades and kind of see what's going on with everything that we got going on. Let's bring up the Kijun Sun. And of course our indicators. Okay, so Aussie Yen. Parallax has us in a longer term bearish trend on this. What is interesting is we were kind of waiting. I was trying not to take a posture on the Aussie Yen right now. Let's actually pull up our Forex calendar right here and see. This is looking at what we had today. Now, major events today was, the Royal Bank of Australia governor was speaking today. I didn't really, I didn't avoid any Aussie trades based off of that. Honestly, I do expect this to be a little bit more positive than negative. We can see all the other times that he's spoken as well. More hawkish than regular would be, pretty good for the currency. But again, I don't actually view this with a high level of impact that this does. Now, the CAD, I absolutely did not touch. any CAD trades because the CAD was doing their GDP today, and this is in my opinion, pretty much one of the biggest events that can happen for the CAD. Now, I actually think that I actually expected this to be quite good for the CAD because on average, with the exception of April 30, 2019, the last 5 times this has all been quite positive, right? And the actual GDP has outpaced the forecast and the previous as well. So again, I think I was expecting this to be more. I was leaning more bullish on this outcome than negative. But again, I did not touch CAD pairs just in case. And then the only other thing, USD ISM manufacturing. I didn't really feel the need to stay out of the market. Overall, this has been more bearish than bullish lately. The only problem with that is that dollar pairs are treacherous to trade no matter what's coming up. So I don't really view this as the highest impact thing that I would be worried about. So moving into tomorrow, what do we get? Well, we got non-farm employment change, give or take. That is kind of important. So we'll be a little hesitant trading dollar pairs coming up tomorrow. The other thing as well is crude oil inventories. I don't really care about that. Maybe if you're trading crude. So again, kind of still in that posture of being a little bit wary about dollar pairs, but I'm not in a posture where I'm not wanting to trade them. So looking at the Aussie yen, now that we've kind of gotten that measure out from the Aussie, we did get that declination. Actually, we did get declination. So not the bullish movement. Again, I did take Aussie Kiwi right here. Aussie yen. We are now actually closing below the Kijun San right here. Watt is actually telling us to go ahead and go. Parallax has been bearish for quite a while, but of course we haven't taken that reversal, and now we are getting the cross under in bearish territory. So I'm actually going to be looking at this now that we're kind of through the high impact event. We'll wait and see how the daily closes and see if we do get some kind of reactionary off of this. I'm already underwater on this Aussie trade right here. Of course, I did try to take this one long due to the cross up that I got. Of course, we can see this on Minx, and it hasn't told me to exit the trade yet, so I won't be doing that. I don't think it's appropriate to do that at this point in time, but maybe we can counterbalance that with this Aussie yen short right here. So, of course, Aussie Kiwi still long in the Aussie Kiwi, and nothing really to change here at this point in time. Aussie dollar, we can kind of see that converse reaction right here where the Aussie dollar is dropping quite a bit against the dollar. That's the saddest thing I've ever seen, man. Okay. Yeah, I got to say, I think that in the absence of that non-farm employment change coming out tomorrow, I would actually be looking to take the Aussie dollar short. This doesn't mean anything to me. Supply and demand is not a real thing in Forex. And none of these currencies have intrinsic value. But again, just from the natural realm of support and resistance, I mean, this level has been tapped 3 times. This is going to be time number 4. Did we get a bounce? Possible. But again, overall, everything is a little bit bearish. We've been in a bearish posture on Parallax for a while here. Wadatar explosion is bearish, and of course, giving us some nice momentum to the downside, letting us know that there is potential for a trend. And Minx is now giving us the go-ahead with this most recent cross under on today. So I'm going to put this one on my watch list. Not going to take any active trades right now, not with non-farm tomorrow, but yeah, and even though that employment change is largely lies, it can, does have a potential to move things in a way that I don't want them to. Canadian Swissy. Let's see here. No real strong opinion on the Canadian Swissy. Parallax is obviously switching to the upside. I kind of like this, actually. I kind of like that we are getting this bullish signal coming in from Parallax. We obviously are in a bullish structure. We've come back. We've tested this. We are getting a little bit of rejection. So this would be an opportunity to get in a little bit at a cheaper price on the Canadian Swissy. And of course, Minx is telling us that we're good to go to the upside. The only thing that I would be... we haven't crossed over yet, so think I'm going to put this one on my watch list as well for a potential long for the Canadian Swissy. CAD Yen, I don't really feel strongly about taking a trade here on the CAD Yen. Swissy Yen is in a no trade zone for me. The Euro Aussie, again, responding well with negative news coming back from the Aussie. So Aussie pairs are deflating. So we'll just see. Reactionary move, I think. Of course, we had some news come out today on the Aussie, as we talked about from the Forex news calendar that we looked at yesterday. And I'm always kind of hesitant to look for trending movements right after such an event. But I will not discount the fact that Minx is crossing to the upside. Wadatar Explosion is kind of giving us the go-ahead. Now, Parallax has not shifted to the upside, so I'll probably wait. And that'll give me enough time to see if this is going to be a sustained movement or if this is just a negative movement here. Still short on the Euro CAD, as you guys can see right here. I have taken a little bit of profit right here. Below that level right now, my stop loss is at break even on the Euro CAD. Let's take a gander here and see. No, won't be exiting this yet. Actually, excuse me. Yeah. So potential to be exiting the Euro CAD trade this evening. Let's see here. Euro Swissy. Nothing to do right here. The Euro Kiwi is putting us in for a long, but we're not quite there yet. The Euro Pound is trying to posture bullish, but we can't be taking longs on the Euro Pound right now. Euro Yen is in a no trade zone. The Euro Dollar, I would be taking profit on my short, and I'd be looking to reshort from a higher level. The Pound Kiwi actually is starting to look pretty good, but we can't take a continuation trade on the Pound Kiwi yet. And actually, kind of conversely, I'd be looking for shorts on the Pound CAD. Pound Swissy is a no trade. Pound Yen is in a no trade. Pound Dollar is in a no trade. Kiwi Dollar is in a no trade. Kiwi CAD was kind of an attractive short on yesterday's candle. Yeah, we can kind of see all of that initiation coming in on yesterday. Kiwi Swissy, I wouldn't be trading right now. The Kiwi, you can see here, I am short on the Kiwi Yen. And look at that market manipulation. Clearly, Owanda hates me. You can see that literal, what are we like? Like maybe one pip away from my take profit right there. Darn. Discipline and patience, guys. No reason to do anything. So short on the Kiwi Yen. I still think that this looks good, and I'll hold that short trade open at this point in time. Dollar CAD, potential to be looking to establish a short at this point in time. We're just not quite there yet. Pound Aussie is almost time to re-long, but not quite yet. Dollar Swissy, again, opened this trade last evening, getting a little bit of rejection here from resistance, but again, no reason to exit the trade yet. And the Aussie CAD, I am short on the Aussie CAD and getting some nice bullish reactionary right here. So potential, that's a very nice, that's quite a big candle. That's almost a 1% candle. So I'll probably take a little bit of profit on today's closure right here. But overall, doing pretty decent in the Forex. It's been quite good to me. I do see some interesting things coming in, but overall, nothing that really piques my interest. Kind of in a interim as far as right now is going. Jay Kreutzer, man, thank you so much for the $5, my good friend. He says, nothing better than a good dose of rationality. Thank you for being an amazing influence in my life and injecting jet fuel into my learning. Man, hey, you guys, thank you so much, Jay, for the very, very kind words. But you guys inspire me probably more than I inspire you. I don't know. I guess that's a subjective measurement. But I get to wake up every single day and know that I've got a great team to work with. I know that I've got a great group of people who like to watch me live and support me. And I get to talk to some of the most amazing people. I've met some of the coolest, most amazing people ever doing this. And I don't know, you guys greatly contribute to the positiveness of my life. So thank you, man. Thank you. Ken had a buy-in on Bitcoin at 95.50, and when it sold off, it bounced at 95.79. We feel your pain. Okay. Let's go to, it's 12:57, guys. So I think it is about, I think it's about time to be preparing for break. So, hey, warning. Like I got to put up the disclaimer now. Listen, guys, as a trader, I often get asked what metrics, oh, that's not correct. As a trader, I often get asked what metrics I use to evaluate what potential exchanges to trade on. I always say the exact same thing: security, ease of use, and customer service. Security, we've talked about this a whole lot before, as opposed to spot trading exchanges, which, again, is what I started off with cryptocurrency. But again, I do think that you want to graduate to margin at some point in time. And why do I think that is? Not so that you can take on excess risk, not so that you can get rich quick. I think that people need to be taking a logical, rational approach to margin so that they can trade with more security. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you can trade with 2 to 3x margin, that means that you can actually only deposit half to a third of your actual equity in Bitcoin onto an exchange. And guess what you can do with the rest? You can keep it in cold storage where it's safe. That is how you responsibly use leverage. That is how you responsibly use margin so that you can actually secure your funds and reduce counterparty risk. You're not going to get that on Binance. And by the way, I hate Binance's margin trading feature. It's absolute trash. Anyways, as far as ease of use, ByBit's quite a simple platform to use. It's the platform that I do the majority of my trading on as well. And customer service, I'll say this over and over and over again. In the realm of cryptocurrency, it is quite difficult to find an exchange that will do literally anything for you or provide you any kind of substantial customer service. Every issue that somebody's brought to me with ByBit, they have solved the problem. And that means a lot to me. So that's why I like ByBit. That's why I started trading on ByBit. Because there's no such thing as customer service over on BitMEX. There's just a grinning Arthur Hayes and a huge, massively burgeoning insurance fund. So if you guys are tired of those wicks and you'd like to check out ByBit, it is October. So sorry, guys. I do not believe that the bonus for using our link is still there. If you would have used it in September, you could have gotten an extra $200 on top of whatever ByBit gives you guys. But the link is down there. bybit.crackencryptocurrency.com if you'd like to test it out for yourself. Let me know what you guys think. And by the way, we're going to take a quick break right now. When we return from the break, we're going to jump into the news. There's quite a little bit to talk about. EOS's kind of dicey deal with the SEC, Cardano and their new partnership, and then also we're going to talk about a continuing investigation from this channel into the repo market meltdown that has the potential to kick off the 2019 financial crisis on the heels of the 2007-2008 financial crisis. Anyways, guys, don't go anywhere. Stay tuned and let me know if there's anything you guys would like me to look at or if you got any good comments and remarks. I'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Go grab some coffee while I'm gone. Hey guys, welcome back to the stream. If you guys are just joining us for the second hour, we've got such a treat for you because we've got so much to go over. Checking in with the Bitcoin real quick. Over the last hour, we have had quite a bearish candle. Again, nothing unnatural in the realm of Bitcoin, about 1.92% from open to close, a little bit higher on wicking basis. True range of the candle actually being about 3.21%, so a movement down to the downside. Let's have a brief moment of silence for anybody that attempted to buy the breakout on an unconfirmed closing basis here. Again, guys, get off that 30-minute chart, get off that 15-minute chart. Again, if you're going to delve down to the lower time frames, I highly recommend just sticking to the hourly if that is how you're going to trade. Hourly provides a nice balance as well. The hourly, although more treacherous than the daily and being far more active, is going to give you some decent trending signals as well. Get you in about on good trending indicators about the, just the first kind of cliff on any decent trend moving into the consolidation period. And often that's what we see on Bitcoin is that we see a movement up, slight consolidation, and then continuation if we are going to be entering into a trending movement. And what do you need for a trend? You need momentum and volume, guys. So, coming on off the heels of that, we have pulled back down to the hourly Kijun right here. We are getting a little bit of a bounce. Let's kind of see how that plays out over the next hour. But anyways, we do have some stuff I want to talk about. So in the first hour, we did go over Bitcoin's price. We also went over, the larger market cap, we went over the larger market as well. We did look at our major dollar pairs. We did look at our major and minor altcoin pairs as well. And then we also broke down the Forex markets, looking at kind of what we're doing personally and in the group. Now, sorry, I did not get to cover this earlier. I think this is germane. I should have kind of incorporated this into the Bitcoin analysis segment because I do want to get into the news, but I do think, it won't really hurt us to kind of go over this a little bit. So let's head on over into the news with All right, guys, welcome to Today in Bitcoin. Let's check this out right here. Bitcoin bull John McAfee. So this in this segment, we're just going to kind of look at the analysis of a few other people, what they're saying about price, and kind of give our thoughts and comments on that as well. So you guys know John McAfee, big old Uncle John. He says, Bitcoin permabull and crypto anarchist John McAfee has urged the cryptocurrency community to ignore the movement down below 8,000. And confirmed his $1 million forecast. He posted a screenshot of an article published by You Today, in which the trading guru Peter Brandt predicted Bitcoin's price to hit $50,000. And McAfee says that he agrees with him on the midterm forecast. So, and as for the long-term direction of Bitcoin's price, McAfee does stand firm on his previous assessment. That thank you so much for just deleting that for me there, Scott. Highly appreciated, man. Thank you so much for just deleting all my show notes as I'm reading them. Great, just great community teamwork we got going on here. Sorry, guys. Real life problems. Okay, sorry. So as he said, as I was saying, John McAfee then tweeted out his agreement with his prediction that we will see a $1 million Bitcoin by 2020. Now, basically, I think that this man is trying to keep people's eyes on the $1 million valuation prize, so he doesn't have to, remove something by the end of 2020 if Bitcoin is not valued at $1 million. Yeah, lost. So anyways, thank you so much, John McAfee, for keeping the bullish pressure alive. Now, I want to take a look at some more traditional analysis that we are going to get some time in this space. And this is going to be coming in from, let's just slide on down here as well. This is going to be coming in from Naeem Aslam, who is a crypto analyst, and he also contributes to Forbes. Now this is some really, some simple, I think, equity analysis right here. But obviously it's sometimes germane to talk about these things. Basically, what he is saying is the RSI is oversold, something we haven't seen since December 2018. Again, keep in mind that oversold is not a bullish signal. It is actually a bearish signal because it just means, hey, man, like the selling pressure is quite strong and we're oversold right now. There are issues with trading reversals based off of overbought, oversold. Again, remember the first oversold signal when you're coming out of a range is fallacious because your indicator has been trained for a range. So I don't know if you're using an RSI with the look back period of 100, in which case that's going to be a little bit of a different oversold period, but I don't think that that's going to be very helpful insofar as trading actual price action as Bitcoin's price unfolds and evolves in front of us. So his basic theory here is that we will see a bounce due to the fact that the RSI is oversold at this point in time. The other aspect that he's bringing up here is if the 50-day simple moving average falls below the 100-day simple moving average on the daily and remains below that, a bloodbath could happen. So I don't think that you're going to be needing to use a moving average of the 50 and the 100. You're going to be getting into the trend typically right as it ends when you use the 50-100 moving average crossover. Go back and back test it. Just as we've covered the golden and death crosses as well with Bitcoin's price. Typically, every time if you would have gotten a daily golden cross on Bitcoin's price action, if you would have gone short, you would have made money. And every time you get a death cross, and if you would have gone long, every time you get a death cross, you would have made money as well, not actually taking it in a direction that you should. So I think that overall, that's pretty silly, to be quite honest with you. Now, another analyst, let me see if I can actually find the picture for that. And this is exactly what he's talking about right here, looking for the positive argument. If the 50-100 simple moving average moves down to the moves down below the 100 simple moving average, then we'll enter into a bearish trend, and the RSI is oversold. This is, just about as basic, simple as you can get. I don't really think that's very good analysis. But again, you guys take it as you will. Now, Plan B, who has the infamous kind of 2021 stock to flow chart that people have kind of made a little bit of a hullabaloo about, and I've commented on before, but he blames altcoins. He says that altcoins are to blame for the Bitcoin fall. Now, I really think that this is silly. He says that, unlike many who believe that the current Bitcoin price plunge took place not due to the weak start of a Bitcoin futures trading on Backed, which I don't think that's true either. Again, remember, news comes out after the fact to attempt to justify why something happened. The reality is that buyers and sellers and market participants move things in the market. And that's not to say that Bitcoin's price does not respond to news. It just means that it doesn't carry a valid edge for you as a retail trader. Now, Plan B goes by the handle 100 trillion USD, says that some people blame CME or backed futures for Bitcoin's bear market. In his opinion, the rise and fall of altcoins is a more likely driver of 2017-2019 Bitcoin prices. Bitcoin dominance fell from 98% to 40% and is now back at 70% and counting. Bitcoin is up 8 times since the start of the altcoin experiment. I would really flip that back on its head. I think that Bitcoin is the driver of altcoin prices and not vice versa. We've seen this multiple times. And keep in mind that Bitcoin dominance is not not calculated in a real manner, just very similar to hash. Fake number divided by fake number equals fake number, as another online trader is wont to say. And kind of topping this off with the last little bit of analysis that I'm just trying to kind of chunk through this morning. It's coming in from, here we go. Coming in from Mr. Dave the Wave. Noted cryptocurrency trader Dave the Wave. take that as you will. No disrespect meant to any of these guys. It's a tough hustle, man, going out there and putting out your analysis. Now, he believes that we are in a long-term bullish triangle. And if it plays out, we could see an exponential break upwards sometimes in 2020. So looking at the long term, he's still quite bullish on this. And he does have that. Let's kind of scroll down here and see if we can actually see his analysis right here. Here we go. Bit of context on larger time frame and a triangle that should break upwards, looking for that break up in 2020. Again, I'd be pretty hesitant on this as well. So I don't really have a lot of comments on this. I think this is reaching. I mean, I'd say that another reason why I think that's reaching as well is he is referencing the logarithmic chart, which is not germane to actual price action. Okay, moving on into some more interesting news of the day here. Coming over here from the Bitcoinist, EOS price shoots up 10% following the Block 1 SEC settlement. So this is a good example of how price does respond to news. Of course, we have not seen any real follow through on that because, of course, Bitcoin sneezes and then EOS's price just comes back down with the rest of everything else. So let's go through the highlights of what actually happened right here. So the SEC, for those of you guys who have been living under a rock, a while ago, the SEC charged Block 1, who, again, for those of you who are living under a rock, they are the blockchain firm behind the development of the EOS smart contract platform. They charged them with conducting an unregistered ICO of ERC20 based digital tokens between June 2017 and June 2018. Now, so as of yesterday, the two parties have reached a, quote, neither confirm nor deny settlement, which is probably the best thing Block 1 could have gotten out of this. And this does result in Block 1 agreeing to pay a one-time fine of $24 million after the SEC alleged that the blockchain firm used funds, raised by the ICO that they held on the Ethereum blockchain when they originally released the EOS ERC20 tokens to fund general expenses, software development, and promotion of their mainnet platform. Now, the SEC also found that pursuant to federal law, Block 1 obviously did not register their ICO or their security or their commission or commission their intent to either the securities or U.S. investors. Now, the EOS mainnet, of course, has since launched, and the Ethereum-based ICO tokens that are at the heart of the matter, they're no longer traded or in circulation. So that kind of puts the kibosh on that, puts the quash on that. Now, the new EOS tokens do not qualify as a security according to the SEC, and that does effectively resolve all ongoing matters between Block 1 and the SEC. So again, pretty much getting away by the skin of their teeth on this, probably Block 1 getting the best possible treatment they could get out of this. And furthermore, what really is kind of the cream, the icing on the cake here for Block 1 and for you EOS diehards out there, is that Block 1 has been granted a waiver from the SEC. And that states that the blockchain firm will not be subject to any ongoing restrictions, which do typically apply in these types of settlements. So Block 1 cites this as evidence, and correctly so, I think, that their organization and the EOS token continue to meet U.S. and international compliance. So I think that, for those of you guys who are fundamentally feeling quite good about EOS, this does provide a lot of clarity for the firm and investors alike on EOS. They've had their first brush in with the SEC, and the SEC basically gave them the, shook them down. They want the what is it, $24 million out of them, shook them down, got their money. EOS did what they were supposed to do, got shooken down by the U.S. regulators. They're going to pay up. And they got the waiver. So I think they're good to go. So again, that kind of leads to the question of the day. What do you guys think about EOS? And again, I'd like to hear your comments down below. Do you guys think that EOS is a good investment? Do you guys think it's a long-term hold? Do you think there's good fundamentals there? Or is it just another pump and dump and it doesn't really matter that the SEC has kind of given it the, thumbs up insofar as a lot of the other cryptocurrencies have gone? This adds EOS to kind of the small list that we are starting to compile as far as how the U.S. regulatory agencies have started to deal with them. On top of Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS now joins the ranks, with XRP, of course, being in the ether as maybe, most likely, almost certainly, a security. Yeah, pay the fine and you're fine. That's exactly how it works in the United States, Ricky. All right. Now, let's look at this wonderful picture of old Charles Hosk, man. Look at that beard growing out there. He's not even wearing flannel, man. Looking good. So let's talk about Cardano, man. So Cardano just recently celebrated their 2nd year anniversary, as well as the official launch of their testnet. So at this kind of wonderful wonderful event of celebratory enthusiasm, Charles Hoskinson, who's the Cardano CEO, announced that New Balance, yes, your grandfather's favorite shoe brand, ye of the wide feet committee, the sports apparel brand, would now be using the Cardano blockchain to authenticate a premium line of training shoes for the company. Hooray, huzzah, awesome, fantastic, so neat. Hoskinson says, quote, "It provides a lot of things to New Balance that they're really struggling with. Last year, New Balance confiscated around 25 million pairs of fake shoes." So for those of you guys who have ever been to like I'll tell you, this is just a kind of an anecdotal story. You kind of see these pop-up shops where people are, hawking what they say is designer wear. You can get these Gucci. When I was in Manhattan, you can pretty much go anywhere and you see little pop-up shops on the street, and they got Gucci bags and all this stuff that they just kind of throw off of the back of a truck. None of it's Gucci, none of it's real. It's all fake knockoff stuff. But again, they're going to charge you, dime prices for dime stuff. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. So I've kind of seen the same thing as far as it's kind of funny. I remember I was younger and I came across one of these pop-up shops. I think I was in Georgia, right outside of ATL, and saw these street vendors, and they were selling Air Ones, and they were called, they were supposed to be Air Ones, right? And then you kind of look at the red stitching on it, and it's like J1s or something like that, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is super cheap. No, I'm good, man. Last year, so again, about 25 million pairs of shoes. That's a lot of fake kicks, man. So Charles said authentication is a very expensive proposition for a bunch of brands. What we can bring to the table is not only a very better way, yes, he said a very better way for them to accommodate this, but also potentially create a marketplace. So counterfeiting brand name luxury goods is about the tune of $1.13 trillion per year. According to the International Trademark Association, that's where those figures come from. So, Cardano, I think, this is okay. So let's talk about this. How do I kind of feel about this? I think this is actually a pretty neat thing. I'm not going to lie. I would like to see these blockchains mature a little bit and actually start moving into use cases and providing us use cases and actual partnerships with company that we can now look at, that eventually we'll be able to look at with a little bit more data as potential investors in these altcoins. We've reached an area, I think, when or if we're going to talk about altcoin investing, where the kind of old, hey man, we're investing in the white paper. The white paper sounds good. They've got all these potential partnerships. The project sounds good. The development team's good. Blah blah blah. All that's nonsense, man. We've already seen about 2 years of that. And, we had a couple good runs of altcoins being able to just bring in a lot of fresh retail money and have massive pumps and return good returns for those who acted in the correct fashion or invested in the correct fashion in these. But unfortunately, I think the majority of retail traders who have invested in altcoins have seen nothing but red in their portfolio. And I think that, with that, this is a very immature space in the realm of altcoins. And, I think that a lot of people are still very hazy. Investors and influencers in the space, and even developers, for the love of God, are still very hazy about what the hell their project is going to do. I think a lot of people believe that a lot of these things are going to compete with Bitcoin or be some kind of, DeFi, amazing thing where it's just... where it's actually, these things are competing to be a currency instead of actually looking at the real token economics. How does this thing fit into the existing strata that we currently have? How do these projects fit into the existing business architecture that we have? And what actual value can they provide to the open market? So, with Cardano actually generating a use case here where they can show, hey, companies like New Balance, if they can, striking this deal with New Balance kind of opens up the floodgates for them, hopefully, to reach out to other designer brands and other brands as well to provide this same kind of thing. And again, confiscate, that's $1.13 trillion that potentially a hole can be plugged into. That's actual money that can be generated. Now, again, come down to the token economics. Does that mean that the token is good to invest in? You kind of really have to balance that out with, what is the use case? this is why, I'm kind of stuck on this, very pessimistic outlook for a lot of these coins because their token economics just do not match up with the value that they can provide. There's a difference between the valuation of the block one company and there's a difference between the valuation of some token that they're producing for some random reason. So you really got to look at that very carefully when you are believing that by going onto an exchange and buying some token, that you are now investing in a company or that you have an asset that is somehow tied to the well-being or the value of the company. It's not really the stake. It's not really the case. That's why in the realm of altcoin investing, I really am interested in STOs. I really do think that's going to be the next actual sustainable movement forward that can provide some consistent returns for investors. Because again, you're going to be the token economics are actually going to be tied to the performance of the company with the model of most STOs that I've seen. So again, you guys do your own research on these. But again, I do think this is pretty neat to see. Pretty neat to see. Now, capping off the last little bit of news as we move into the half-hour mark on the last hour here, coming from the Wall Street Journal. Whew, boy. Now, we have talked quite a lot on this show about the repo market meltdown and what that means. So make sure that you guys go back and view our earlier takes on this as well. We've been reporting on this for quite a while, and I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this. So the New York Fed did move to inject another $54 billion into the repo markets today. And this follows another rate spike in the markets over the weekend, where actually the rate to hold these short-term bonds jumped up to about 10% instead of the regular around 1% to 2%. So New York Fed President John C. Williams had an interview with the New York Times last week, and he described how the Fed is going to implement this ongoing facility for the repo markets. Like, how is this actually going to be sustainable? His answer is nonsense, of course, but he laid out how the approach is going to require the Fed, who has been in this mode of offloading their balance sheets, of offloading the amounts of bonds and security and equity that they hold, and basically having to reverse that concept because they're realizing that they're going to have to actually hold more assets to be able to provide the liquidity to the repo markets, because the necessity for the repo markets is not going to that liquidity problem is not going to fix itself anytime soon. And what's really, really interesting is, and we haven't really talked about this before either, but let's get into this. Obviously this is all being brought out by the turmoil that the repo markets are bringing into the issue of liquidity. And the reality is that banks are becoming more and more and more hesitant to do these short-term loans to other investment banks and other commercial banks. Which has basically been the whole merry-go-round, musical chairs type of game that they always play. All of these banks are absolutely leveraged to the hilt, and all of them are kind of looking at the fundamental asset that they are all thinking is going to protect them, which is the treasury bonds, or government-backed bonds of any type, to actually make them solvent. So the problem here is, why would these risk-free U.S. Treasury assets, which typically yield only about 2%, fetch a 10% rate, which is similar to what an unsecured asset would go for, right? And again, that's kind of high in the marketplace nowadays. So there's a great Forbes article by Caitlin Long titled "The Real Story of the Repo Market Meltdown," and she kind of lays out the practice of rehypothecation. So let's talk about this. So basically, for every U.S. Treasury security that is outstanding, so these are treasury securities that a commercial bank would hold, there is typically 3 parties that believe that they own that asset and report that as such on their balance sheets. In 2018 alone, the International Monetary Fund estimated that the same collateral, the same bond on average, was reused by banks for the purposes of reporting assets on their balance sheets, was reused about 2.2 times, which means that both the original owner and statistically 2.2 subsequent reusers all believe that they own the same collateral, all believe that they have the same rights to the same bond. Now, U.S. Treasuries are the most rehypothecated asset in financial markets. That means they are far from what we consider risk-free assets in reality. Now, auditors can't catch this generally because GAAP accounting standards obfuscate this issue. So while each bank, if you just look at a bank's financial statements, would show that the bank is solvent, the financial system as a whole is not. Because every bank claims that they're solvent, but the assets that they're claiming are being duplicated on other banks' balance sheets because the banks are claiming that they all own the same assets. And to be quite honest with you, nobody really knows how far this goes. Is it double, triple, quadruple, or more counting of these U.S. treasuries take place? So nobody really knows how big of a hole the wider banking system is in. And again, this amounts to a case of musical chairs for the big banks. If the music stops and liquidity... So the only way that this charade can continue is if the Fed and if other banks are willing to loan money to banks to do what they want to do. Because if the music stops playing and everybody has to sit down on the musical chairs, there might be 10 people playing this game of musical chairs and they feel like it's round one and there's only going to be one chair that's missing. So 9 banks are going to be able to sit down and one bank is going to have to go insolvent. The reality is there might be 2 or 3 chairs because all these banks are claiming on average 2.2 times the same asset that they are believing holds them solvent. The only way that this charade can continue, as I said, is if there is liquidity that is continuing to flow through the markets so that at the end of the day, banks don't actually have to reveal or basically own up to what they own because they'll find out that the asset that they thought they owned, they don't actually own. Somebody else owns it. And this explains why such a premium can form on these U.S. treasuries overnight in the repo markets. So again, treasury securities, treasury bonds, low yield asset, on average 2%. Why would it spike up to 10%? Well, because if the banks fear a run, if they actually fear that whoever at the end of the day is, whatever bank actually has possession of that U.S. Treasury bond, makes the claim, and we're getting down to, are you solvent, are you solvent, are you solvent, are you solvent, are you solvent? Let's look at the balance sheets. Let's make sure that you own what you say you own. They're going to find out that a lot of the assets that they're claiming on their balance sheets, they don't actually own. So, of course, people are willing to pay a premium. Of course, these banks are willing to pay a premium to hold these U.S. Treasury bonds. Because the problem is, the alternative is institutional insolvency. Of course, you're going to pay a premium to lock in the ownership of a Treasury bond. I don't have an easy answer for you guys, man. I don't have an easy answer for you guys. We've really, gotten ourselves in a negative situation. It's not a good alternative either. Let's be honest with you, man. On that depressing news, let's head back over to Bitcoin. Up about 0.38%, overall about 0.5% off of this bounce off the hourly Kijun. Again, not a whole lot here to talk about. So let's scroll up a little bit, man. And let us engage with the chat a little bit, guys. Agency says, you know what they say about guys with big feet? Yep, big old socks, man. Mud, what's going on, my friend? He says, I have an Olympic-sized red portfolio. PTP for the win. Good to, it's been, my brother, it's been so awesome to have you in the group and to see your growth and to see the gains and to see you bounce back. It's been fantastic, man. Thank you so much. Seen a documentary where after a lawsuit, Pirates changed shoe name to New Balance because it still sounds like New Balance when the Asians selling in the United States would say it. No joke, not trolling. Anthony Stewart, anyone note everyone who does TA on YouTube talks 100 miles per hour? I talk fast all the time, man. Not all the time. Not all the time. Most of the time. Ken says, if silver ever moons down the road, no, I'm happy. I got you, man. Hey, I have silver. I would be more than thrilled if silver just pumps spawn up to those all-time highs, man. $73 silver. What operating system do I use for my trading machine? Windows. Yeah. I have Linux that I run on some of my laptops, but I'm not gonna lie, there's like a funny taste. It almost tastes like my kids were eating pickles out of my cup. Not gonna lie. This is real life parent shit, man. Yeah, let's take a look at gold, man. Let's kind of zoom out to the daily. Excuse me. Let's actually go to the monthly on gold. So I want to find a pattern here. You know, one thing that I want to talk about a few things on the monthly here. I'm looking at the ZAO USD CFD on Awando. And, you know, there are a few things that are impossible to not mention. All right, so overall, we're in a macro bullish trend. We have the monthly bullish parallax. We have monthly bullish Wadatar explosion, and overall we have a fairly bullish Minx. Now Minx is telling us to this again. What is interesting is that this is the new month. This is the October month, and we're already starting off with Minx crossing under. You have a whole 31 days to wait for that to confirm. So on the monthly for gold, you are still long. You're still long to the gills. Now, we did get a sell signal from time transformation on last month's closure, right? That did close. We did close last month bearish, okay? We did close last month bearish. Now, we have gotten on the entire monthly chart, and this goes back to 2006, we've gotten one good monthly sell signal, and then two that occurred in strong uptrends that immediately got taken out. So if I'm looking at these two sell signals, I can see one right here on January 2011, and I can see one right here on May 2011. So what was kind of the signal here to that was invalidated? Well, it was the retracement, and then we can see that we actually end up closing a monthly above that level. It happens here. Here's the first sell signal, and here's the second. We have another down month, and then we do end up closing above that high. And that led to, in this case, let's see here, a very good month. And if you sold there, you still would have locked in those 10% gains on gold. And potentially, if you were taking some profit along the way, you had a 12% profit opportunity right here. Before we entered into this consolidation, pretty much, I would say at the local top on gold between 2011 and 2013, where price just didn't really do much and traded in a range. We are coming back up to tap those levels. We are hitting the bottom of that. What was once a previous demand zone is now a supply zone. We do have kind of a monthly breaker as well. So that's kind of what I would be interested to see, is to see prices above 15,000. I'd be interested to see prices above 15,000. Until then, my biggest expectation is to see consolidation at these highs or rejection currently on gold's price action. So again, just following that same pattern, it's been a good run on gold. I would be out of pocket right now. I'd be out of position if I was actively trading gold. And I would be looking for, just as we saw with the sell signals on time transformation over here, I would be looking for the monthly to close above 1527. Closing above 1527, we're back in pretty interesting territory where we are now back in that range from 2011 to 2013. And most likely just see more bullishness coming in on gold at this point in time. But I'd be a little hesitant right now at this point in time. I would be out of pocket. And I'd be biased to the upside. Long term, but in the short term, I would expect price to consolidate or pull back a little bit. Thank you guys. Thank you, CryptoJack and Blockchain Gains. Highly appreciated, brothers. Yeah, like you said, kind of looks like Bitcoin. Obviously, what's the worst case scenario? Right? That's the worst case scenario. But, gold has amazing intrinsic value, and it tends to move in ways that we don't really expect or predict. And, I think a lot of the gold price action has been just due to the, massive overperformance of the equities markets. I think that gold really is so is silver, man. And so is Bitcoin, man. From a fundamental intrinsic perspective, extremely undervalued. But where we're sitting right now, I'd be out of pocket on gold, man. Let's go down to the daily and see if we can get anything a little bit more active for you, man. And, again, I think that overall monthly perspective is coming true here on the daily. If we look at where we are at on the daily, Parallax did have us bearish on the daily right over here on the 25th of September. On that very same candle, we do have Minx crossing under the noise line. We have Wadatar Explosion giving us our first bearish candle. It's on the next candle that we actually get the powerful signal coming in from Wadatar Explosion, where we actually are closing a red column above a rising explosion level. Good indicator for a short over there on the 26th. And of course, everything lining up quite beautifully as well on that candle. Yeah, obviously gold has been consolidating in this range since August. And I think very similar to Bitcoin, I think we're probably starting to see this range break down right now. So we'll see if this is kind of a fake out movement. But again, yeah, in the short term, I'd be biased to the downside on gold. I got my Obama phone in one pocket and a wad full of Trump bucks in the other. Okay. 143. Let's hop back and over to Bitcoin. And we mostly saw that kind of bullish rise off of the hourly Kijun get kind of sold into. So we are starting to flip a little bit more bearish here intraday. Again, down at the bottom of the range, and we're not really seeing a good reaction off of that like we'd like to. So coming over here on the 4 hour. 4 hour did have us out here about 8 hours ago. We do see this waning bullish momentum. Parallax is still overall macro bullish, hasn't flipped yet. But we are getting on the previous candle, on the previous 4 hour closure that occurred at 11. We did actually get the time transformation cross under right there. So a 4 hour would have you out of pocket. I got a pretty decent entry on this long, so I'll be a little bit more open with this one again. You know, kind of watching and waiting to see if price does end up closing around 8,000. But until then, I'm not really going to get too excited about this ranging behavior at this point in time. Irregardless is a word sometimes used in place of regardless or irrespective, which has caused controversy since the early 20th century, though the word appeared in print as early as 1795. Most dictionaries list it as non-standard or incorrect usage and recommend that regardless be used instead. Hey man, I invest in Bitcoin and I am against the trend, brother. So irregardless of whatever that website just said. Ooh, hello, Link. Way to just absolutely invalidate my subjective analysis. To the races. All right, guys. Everything that I said yesterday, absolute nonsense, man. Link 2020, man. Link for president 2020. Going back to all-time highs. Let's see what we got on Link. You know, what's interesting on Link is that we actually are getting a continuation long signal. Let's see if the daily closes like this. Minx is crossing back up to the upside above the noise line, and we are in bullish posture, right? So is it possible that we are seeing a full-on confirmed breakout of this this area? It's possible. Looks pretty good. Took one look at that time transformation sell signal and said, we don't give no fuck. The internet said it's true, so it must be. Yeah, of course, man. You know, when I looked at this, I looked at that time transformation sell signal and just kind of expected we'd come back down to the bottom of the range in this demand zone right here, which is not out of the option when we do make our way back down to this area. But as of right now, you got to kind of go where the going's going. You got a rising explosion level. Wadatar is quite bullish. You're in a nice bullish trend. Let's see if it goes. Let's see if it can continue, man. Take a look at General Electric. I don't hold any Stellar. I do have some EOS, though, yes. Let's go to, you want to look at General Electric? Eating into your Robinhood, man. I'm not going to lie, man. A lot of people are really bearish on General Electric right now. I like it. I have General Electric in my dividend portfolio. And actually, I think we're at a pretty darn good price, man. It depends on what your perspective is. So let's look at this from a trading perspective, and I'm not going to give you investment advice, okay? Okay. So trying to see if I can make a case for the... it's just too early to tell, man. When we look at stocks, we do have to look at supply and demand, right? So General Electric was forming this kind of consolidation range up here after a movement off of its lows right here, between 879 and 1050. Now we did end up faking down below that, right? So there's two, unfortunately, there's two ways to look at this, and I hate saying that. I hate, doing the whole analysis where it's like, well, it could be this, it could be that, right? So we'll look at some like clear objective things here. But when we're looking at how to interpret this from supply and demand, there are times when we get very, very, very clear signals from supply and demand about what is most likely happening, right? And that kind of influences our directional bias moving forward. This is not one of those cases. This is actually pretty unclear to me. I'm not going to lie. So again, and this, I don't trade stocks. I just accumulate stocks for dividend purposes. But for the purposes of this, kind of looking at this from a trading perspective, not an investment perspective, I think GE is a great company. Again, I hold their stock, and I think it's, from an investment perspective, I think it's like super, super cheap, man. So, but from a trading perspective, you don't really have a lot of good things going on here. The only thing that you could possibly be looking at is, again, this range being established, and you have to consider this a fake out. You have to consider this movement a fake out right here. And you have to look at this as a pop back into the range, and now we're testing the low. And you got a nice long wick on the bottom there. You got some buyers stepping in, and you're going to hope that this holds. You can't make a decision based off the information we have currently right here. Why? Because you need to see a couple days of that low actually holding. And again, either establishing a range above and holding that level as demand. And in that case, you consider that support until it breaks. You consider that demand level valid until it breaks. Or that doesn't happen, and this is just a higher low, or a lower high, excuse me, and we end up taking out this low, in which case we just continue on with the bullish or the bearish trend. Now, for a PTP trade, you had, let's see if we can kind of look at this a little bit better. You got an order block right here. When we're looking over at this price, consolidating right at that resistant order block, we do get the cross under. We do get multiple sell signals on the daily time transformation in this area. Actually, 3 of them right throughout this area. Let's see here. Don't actually flip bearish on General Electric on Parallax until right here. Putting in for a good short signal right there. So yeah, I mean, from a trending perspective, I'd be looking for shorts on this. You are in an area where you can kind of hold up and wait and see if we do end up kind of holding this level. And again, the line's not important. It's not like 879 is the level. You're just kind of looking, again, this is the bottom of the range. This was demand for this entire range zone. You're kind of looking for that to hold. And if that doesn't hold, then I'd say we just default to our trending indicators, which are telling you to be looking for shorts in the first place. Thank you so much, Robin. And yes, that is correct. Minx, time transformation. Baseline, Quadrigo ATR, Quadrigo position sizing. Parallax and volatility expander are going to be coming out soon. Let's look at Roku. Man, I got a Roku in my living room, and what a sell-off on Roku, man. Okay, so there's some interesting things coming in here for Roku, man. Getting a daily time transformation buy signal. And now what's interesting about that daily time transformation buy signal is that this is not one of those situations where I would be hesitant on that signal, because we were not in a range. We were in a trending environment, and then we continued in a trend with the same momentum in the opposite direction. And so getting an overbought signal in that kind of situation is a little bit different, a little bit more powerful in my perspective. Plus, on top of that, we're coming back down to a price, a price level where we did consolidate at previously. A little treacherous, man. I don't really like buying the first bounce back. I do prefer to see signs of strength. I do like to see some bullishness come out of this. Most likely do get a bounce at this point in time. Maybe even fill this gap all the way running on up to about 120. And then I think we'll have to just kind of wait and see I would want to see this level hold, and I'd want to see some consolidation here, and then a break to the upside before I think that we're going to resume this bullish trend. Roku obviously been on a very nice run, man. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is time to be entering into a bearish trend. We of course did get lots of trending bearish indications, starting all the way up here, pretty much at the top with Parallax. And Minx confirming that as well, and Wadatar Explosion confirming that as well. Right on this candle, you could have rode this whole short down. You would have missed selling the top. Who cares? You would have got in right at about 143, right on the closure of this candle, about 144.01. If you could find anybody to allow you to short the stock, and I'm sure finding Roku stock would have not have been difficult to short sell, depending on your broker. But yeah, I'd be out of the trade right now. I'd be neutral. If you want to be a little bit riskier, again, I think we could probably see a bounce maybe up to the 120 area. But I'd wait for anything, lower risk on that, maybe 1%. And I would wait to see. I would really wait to see this, to see a range get established, or to see, kind of like what we're seeing with Bitcoin, to see a little bit of consolidation and then a break to the downside. And you're like, okay, cool. We're just going to continue shorting. Go, 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 go. Hey, you're welcome, Wonderful Bricks. Thank you so much, my friend. Can I look at Litecoin USDT Binance chart? Sure, man. Litecoin on the Tether. Listen, I think there's less valid information coming in here from the Tether chart. From a trending perspective, we're not really in an interesting area. The LTC BTC chart is an interesting area. I did start moving into LTC BTC. Again, we see less consistent demand here on the LTC USDT chart. But again, kind of my thesis with LTC in the first place was, with the exception of this dip, well, again, and it's very different on the BTC chart, looks quite different measured against sats. But as far as the USDT chart, I mean, this is pretty much the low of price. If you just take out what happened in November 2018 and, kind of just remove that tragic, god-awful vision out of your mind when we broke from 6K all the way down to 3K. So, we're right there. We are consolidating. I think the BTC chart is a lot cleaner, so I did start establishing. So I have to, I've just full disclosure, I'm bullish on Litecoin at this point in time. I think it's at a good, cheap price to start buying, and I think that I like Litecoin for what Litecoin is. But if we're looking for, the reversal isn't very clean at this point in time. Kind of, very similar to what we're seeing out of Bitcoin, steep movement to the downside. Obviously, more bearishness coming in from Litecoin right here. And not a very clean break of this range, just overall consolidation. You do see some accumulative behavior coming here out of Litecoin, but hasn't really broken to the upside. The confidence level would be low if you're just looking at this from a trading perspective. It's kind of unclear on whether we get a bounce at this point in time or whether we consolidate for quite a little bit longer. And it's possible we might even see lower prices. And I've kind of laid out, there are price levels at which I'm like, okay, I'm moving out of Litecoin. But again, not measured against the dollar, measured against sats at this point in time. We do have waning bearish momentum. Of course, we're going to see that moving into consolidate. This is just kind of a boring chart, man. We're just moving sideways. Typically moving sideways after a big bearish movement to the downside does end up resulting in more bearish movement to the downside. But all of our trending indicators are short, but you are being told by Minx and, of course, by time transformation to be out of an active short. And again, just neutral in the market at this point in time. And Starbucks is the last thing I'm going to look at. I just think, Starbucks does not look good, very good right now, man. It's on its way down. Everything's trending. In fact, we're getting like new trending indications right now. We got the first indication to go short on this. Parallax kind of going short over here back on September 4th. Everything confirmed on that candle as well. You even have multiple powerful signals coming in from Wadatar Explosion. You get continuation again over here on the 25th for this last little bit of a leg down. What I want to be entering into the market right now? No, not really. You do kind of got this little supply area right here. It's not very significant, but something that would make me hesitant. But yeah, I'm not bullish on Starbucks. This is not a bullish chart. All right, guys. With that being said, let's slide over here and talk to you because I know you've been hiding out in my corner. Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining me over here to the Dad Cam. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another exciting episode of Breaking Bitcoin. Of course, I've been your host, Justin Wise, lead analyst and senior mentor at CrackingCryptocurrency.com. I hope you guys go on to have an absolutely fantastic day. Question of the day is, what are your guys' thoughts about EOS? They just kind of got out of their dicey deal with the SEC. So do you think EOS represents a good investment, a good long-term hold? Do you think they have good fundamentals, or are they just another pump and dump? Please leave your comments in the section down below. Whether you're watching now, you'll have to wait a few minutes, or whether you're watching this post. If you guys have any other questions, comments, sarcastic remarks, opinions, or death threats, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below. I'll try to respond to you within the next 48 hours if your question is germane to what we do around here. If you are new to trading, an aspiring trader, or an experienced trader looking to work with a team with a proven, verified statistical edge who deal in the realm of raw technical strategy, make sure to check out the top link in the description down below. Head over to premium.crackingcryptocurrency.com to see all that the group can do for improving your skills as well. Regardless of what you do, make sure to hop in the Discord community to keep the conversation going. That just happened. To keep the conversation going, because it's all about the community. It's not just about the show, guys. That's discord.crackingcryptocurrency.com, available for everybody. I'd love to see you guys in there. Looking forward to seeing you in our community. That's about it, guys. We will be back here tomorrow at noon Central Daylight Standard Time to break down the news, to give our best analysis possible, and, you know, to talk, because that's what we do here, guys, because it's about the community. That's about it, guys. I want you guys to trade very safely, guys, and I will see you guys here same time, same crypto channel, same crypto time tomorrow, breaking down the markets and cracking some cryptocurrency, guys. Have a good one.